Good afternoon. Welcome to Talking Bollocks, part 65. The date today is June 3rd and it's a Wednesday. Had to think about it there for a second. I know it's a Wednesday. It just like fucks with your head a little bit. I'm going to start with a few cool for this chatty things. But I will start by saying I didn't know whether to continue with this after there's so many voices out there that need to be heard right now that aren't mine. But I'm decided to still be here at least for a little bit longer. I think our journey together is coming to the end a little bit. So I'm not sure when, and I'll let you know. But I think number 70 might be the last Talking Bollocks. I think that's fair to say that I've had a good time doing this. It's given me a voice to do this. It's given me a space while lockdown was on to sort of timetable my day in a way, to make sure that I've sort of got something to do, because I can tend to drift or ping myself around like a little bit like a pool ball on a pool table. Anyway, so I've got new earrings on. I made these though, so I'm very proud of these. They're kind of a first prototype of some earrings I want to make, because I like big earrings, but I don't like heavy big earrings, if that makes sense. I've also got my new dinosaur t-shirt on, which is very comfy. I'm not sure about this. I think I've got like too narrow top bit up here, but anyway, it is what it is. It's comfy, and it's got a fucking dinosaur right on. Also, weeks and weeks and weeks of work went into my grading this morning. Myself and Elliot graded this morning for our Iaido, and we passed, thankfully. We achieved our second Kyu, which means that in December we can grade for our first Kyu, and then a year in December, so December 2021, we can actually grade for our Shodan. And Shodan, even though we don't actually wear coloured belts, Shodan is the sort of the equivalent of a black belt. It's interesting because even though it's a focus to get to, I think every grading, I know how much I've learned and how much I've still yet to learn, if that makes sense. I mean, for instance, I've got a sword now, and this is the wonderful bruise that the suba on my sword, my Iaido even, causes on the suba, because the sword's quite heavy. So every time I sort of do a couple of movements, it bangs into my hand. And weirdly though, I don't tend to notice when I'm training with it. It's only afterwards why I accidentally sort of press that area of my hand. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a big bruise on my hand. Yeah, which was really cool. Elliot has been teaching me a lot, and Elliot's my youngest child, who's 15, is a very harsh teacher in a way. He doesn't let anything slide, and because he's my son, there's a lot of conflict because of that. But actually, once I sort of sucked it up a little bit and actually really listened to actually what he had to say, he did a really good job of correcting me, and it wasn't on his behalf, it wasn't done with emotion. I felt like I needed a little bit more positivity, but there wasn't negativity. It was just that he was being very particular of how he was helping me get better. And today I did notice this grading. It's quite different grading by a video call, because I also missed watching other people grade and having that collective all-togetherness that our club has with Iaido. But I'm sure, I know it's still there, and I know it's waiting to just be reignited in the flesh as soon as we're allowed to. I'm very happy that both myself and Elliot graded and passed. It's really cool. It was, of course, I still had the eye thing last week, so I was practicing sometimes with one of my eyes, my right eye closed in the garden because it was so sunny. And of course the weather this morning was, then it started to rain instead, and the only place we could do the grading, you can't really wave swords and bockrons around in the house, was in the garden. But luckily it had dried up just as we needed it to, so I'm very happy with that, and very pleased that we've passed, very proud of Elliot. Very proud of myself, actually. I know I've said this before, but, you know, for a long time in my teens and my 20s, I wouldn't even wear shorts or dresses, and I never thought that I'd be able to do a sport. And this was Taekwondo at first, that I would actually excel at-ish and get a black belt at. And then now I'm doing a second martial art, and this one is feeling quite spiritual to me, and thank you, Shihan, thank you, and I really love it. It's quite different. It's, even though it's a martial art, for me it actually feels like art. It feels like drawing feels, and when we do a form, or when I do a form or something, it feels like I've drawn something and I've created something in the air with the way that I've moved and the way that I've moved my sword. So yeah, so I'm proud of that. I'm happily sort of going to get more into the jewellery making, I think, because even though I do love the crochet, when it's warm, it's not the most comfortable creative hobby, because I have it all over me, and it makes me sort of kind of warm. What else? The cat's feeling better. She does have the vets tomorrow, as I said, on whatever day it was, and so Monday. So I'll be happy for her to be checked out, because I do think she has lost a little bit of weight. And I've been thinking a lot this week, and I'm sure we all have. And actually, I decided to have a day off for two reasons yesterday. One, I went to a funeral in the morning of someone that I used to care for when I worked in a care home in the care industry. And he was a lovely, infectious soul. He caught COVID-19, which I didn't know until yesterday because I hadn't asked, whilst he was staying in hospital for a kidney infection. And Adam had learning disabilities and severe epilepsy, and it's really sad that he's died at the age of 30 and of COVID. He had a lot of life there and a lot of life still to give. I have to say, yesterday was very moving, that I felt like it was an honour to be there, to say goodbye to him, to respect his life by being there for the family. We could only stand outside the house, and the pastor was there, and he gave a speech and a prayer outside, and I had music playing. But I do have to say, it's hard when mothers bury their children, and from my point of view, it was heartbreaking to see. I then went to the cemetery afterwards, but we weren't allowed in the cemetery, and we stood outside, and actually his sisters and his mum came over to thank us for being there, those of us that had been members of the same sort of care team at the house some time ago. And it was my absolute sort of, it's not my pleasure to be there, because it's not an enjoyable thing going to a funeral, right? But what was really missing and lacking was not from it, but I truly believe that part of the grieving process is to be able to talk and laugh about things to do with that person. And because of COVID, everybody sort of, we did talk and stand around outside the cemetery, those of us that had worked for him, but because of COVID there couldn't be a wake afterwards. And I think that makes it so much harder to grieve in the grieving process. But it was my honour to be there and respect the family and respect his life. I've only mentioned his name because his death has been on the BBC News, on the website at the very least, to do with people that are the disproportionate numbers of people with learning disabilities and disabilities that are dying from COVID-19. And I do think there will need to be questions about this later on. So there was no Talking Bollocks yesterday because of that. I was feeling very emotional. It's the first funeral I've been to since my grandmother passed away. And that obviously, that brings back a lot of memories, doesn't it? Good and bad, obviously. And then also yesterday was Blackout Tuesday of social media, and there was lots of different opinions about it. And there's been lots of different opinions about stuff that's going on, about how people should protest, about what should be done next. And I've said this before, I'm going to say this again today. I'm still quietly working out and educating myself what I can do. I'm reading as much as I can take in right now, because, you know, there is life that needs to go on at the same time. And the changes that I want to make want to be fundamental to how I help the Black Lives Matter movement and the BAME movement and the POC, you know, people of colour. How I, as a person that is white and privileged, I can step down from this and sort of take it. And, you know, part of me is like, I shouldn't do that. But I also think it's really important for everybody to do as much as they're able to do when they're able to do it. So after the funeral yesterday, the cat being ill, grading today, you know, all of these different things, I'm not giving them as excuses. I'm giving them as reasons that I want to be able to make sure that my education and how I educate other people and how I educate my own children, and continue to educate my own children, is that I educate myself constantly from now on. That I take it on board, not as something that I just say, but it's something that I do as well. So you can say something and never do anything with it, or then you can say something and do something with it. I want to be at the point where I actually do something with it. I've got a book list, and I haven't bought the books yet, but I will be buying some of them, and I will be creating a place in my brain slowly, or at my pace, of how to get involved and constantly be involved. Because once this all simmers down, I don't want it to go away from me. I want this to be the thing for me in my history that makes me think my brain was there at this point. I was part of this history, part of this movement, and everybody should want to think like this and educate themselves and do things constantly after all the hashtags and after everything is simmered down. It has to be, if we all collectively do something, and by all, I mean white people, because the black people already been doing the stuff. They already know. It's our turn to get educated and be very, very understanding of our white privilege. I don't think I'm the most eloquent person to speak about this, but I am speaking from the heart, and I have been thinking about it massively, and I realised that it's something that I want to take through in life fundamentally. I want to be able to learn more, and by learning more, I do more, because every time I hear someone else say, and every time I hear someone say something that's just a bit of banter or fucking down and out racist, I'm going to pull them on it every single time from now on. I pretty much do anyway. But it's enough is enough. It's time for history to show that there are people out there, and it's not just the black people fighting for their lives, it's everybody fighting for the black people's lives. to make those fundamental difference. Education, you know, what books our children read, adverts, are they representative of all different peoples, all of these things, all across the board. You know, sometimes I flick through a magazine at the dentist and the amount of white people that are in there, it's like, no wonder there is no representation. You know, even as I'm sort of getting older, and I don't think I'm particularly old, but, you know, as I've left my hair sort of do its natural thing at the moment, which I'm quite enjoying, I'm aware that I look older now than maybe my hair makes me look. I don't know. It's kind of, it's a weird thing, the age thing. But what I'm trying to say is that people disappear, and people disappear in history, and we need them back. We need these people that have been written out of history again and again, like Mary Seacole, who is actually better at a job than Florence Nightingale, but Florence Nightingale is the one that we all hear about. And I know we have Black History Month, but why do we have just 1 month? Let's put them back in the fucking history, throughout history, because that's where it should be at. And where it should be at is, it shouldn't be at white, privileged, usually males, I have to say, I've seen on the forums, deciding how to protest. You know, some of these people have probably never been to a protest or anything in their lives, and never had to fight for their lives in that way. And so I promise that I make a fundamental change to the rest of my life of teaching myself educationally more about my privilege, about how to be an ally, and to keep going with that. I think that's really important, to just keep going and going and going, because I don't think it's going to be something that's over in 5 minutes. Yeah, that's it today. So, I hope everyone's doing okay, because I know some things are back and some things aren't. I know my dentist appointment got cancelled last week, and it was nice. I think it's important to still remember who needs to be held accountable for this whole shoddy lack of direction with COVID-19. I do think it's too early for the lockdown to cease, because the virus didn't go away. It is still there, but we'll see what happens. We'll see whether the government continues to think that the economy is more important. And I do agree the economy is more important. But is it? Yeah, so I'm going to sort of... What am I doing today? I think I'm going to chill a bit today. I'm going to meditate. I bought a book that I have to do with Buddhism into my life. What's it called? It's Tools for Living Your Life, Buddhism. So I want to work a little bit on that book. I started my new course last night as well, which is Radical Dharma. It's a 6-week course with Croydon Buddhist Centre, and that was cool. For some reason, though, I can't put Zoom on my iPad, and it's on my phone, which is really annoying, because I can't see very many people on the screen at once. But hey, in the big scheme of things, it's just slightly aggravating more than anything. Also, I can't really see, so big things that are bigger are much better for me. Yeah, so I think I'm going to do on that. Maybe do a bit of earrings, and then I have book group Zoom this evening, which I'm looking forward to. But I hope you're doing okay, everybody, and I hope you're doing okay. And if you're not, you know where I am. Reach out to someone. It doesn't have to be me, and I'll see you on the flip side. See you later.